Welcome to MMT Chats. This episode brought to you by ISCAR with new ideas for machining intelligently. You're also an RJG Master Molder, right? Master Molder 1. So can you talk a little bit about how that training, like what does that bring to the table for you in your job?
So I'm an RJG Master Molder. I went through the program. It was 2 weeks of intensive training of learning the RJG process and the scientific molding process, and actually getting to run a machine. As a mold maker, I didn't really learn processing.
Okay.
But I've been next to the machines a lot for mold trials and things. And the RJG Master Molder process really helps understand what's happening in the plastic in a scientific way. So it takes away a lot of the, tribal knowledge that may or may not be accurate, but these kind of things. I mean, I found I was thinking wrong in a couple of areas, and what it really does is it helps me to understand now better how proper mold design helps produce a good part.
Yep.
Where venting helps, why venting helps, why water in certain areas helps, and why we need to have ejector pins in certain places. It's all part of it. And it's just been a really good class that I got to take, and good experience.
It's so, over the years, I've learned so much, like how integrated it is, like the mold making and the molding. Like once the magazine, when we started it, was designed to first shot. So like once it goes in the machine, the coverage, we kind of step back, and that we have a sister publication, Plastics Technology. But over the years, more and more mold builders, and a lot of mold builders are tool rooms within molding facilities or OEM facilities. So the crossover, which is too much to ignore, and to see, most people would say you can build a better mold if you understand the molding side. So I can see where all that kind of RJG type of training out there has picked up a lot, because there's definitely a value to the mold builder to learn that side, and vice versa. Really, I would think both, they're so integrated. So I can imagine that picking up more and more and more.
Yep.
Did you find the young ones coming in, do they have just like a mechanical engineer? Are those kids also learning about materials and learning about molding, or is it strictly more like engineering?
So the mechanical engineers are more engineering, and it's theory on all aspects of mechanical engineering.
Okay.
So then they're good. They know the math, and they do all that stuff. But we get plastics engineers in here also, and the plastics engineers are more focused on the polymer side.
Yeah, it is interesting. You need a combination.
Yeah, and they while they do touch on tool design and mold making a little bit in their coursework, it's a rudimentary level that they do it. I mean, I think they have a class project where they get to build a mold that has to make something, and they all get to participate in that, and it's a quick one-off, like open and close mold with no side actions or anything. But then they use that mold as they develop their skills with their processing and learning more about the polymer properties and things like that. So it really does turn out that you have to integrate both sides.
You do
to have a really good part at the end that you can rely on.
All right. So with that in mind, it falls nicely into the next question. So, and with all of your experience, and you think about mold making in the future, how do you define like the mold builder, that skill set in the future? What does that person have to be? Who do they have to be? Their qualities, all that kind of stuff.
I think that, the technology advances in the mold shop, and the departmentalization that's occurring in the mold shops now has kind of, in a way, going to limit some guys. The mold builder or the mold maker is really, I think, going to be more of a project manager. He's going to be interfacing and collaborating with all the different departments within the company to make sure that his parts are moving through properly, answering questions, solving problems as the parts move through. but he's really going to be the one who takes it all together at the end and assembles it.
Got it.
And the designer, I think, is going to take on a more of a primary role, because the designer is the one who has to put the tolerances down.
Yep.
And, you know, back in the days when dinosaurs roamed the earth, we didn't have any tolerances on the mold drawings because they were 2D pencil guidelines, and we mold makers did the details. We knew what sizes our pockets were, so we knew what sizes we had to make our inserts to fit. And they were kind of really one-offs, and you couldn't duplicate that sort of stuff back then. It was challenging to do. And now technology advances, and now you can duplicate things, but you got to put tolerances down on the drawings.
Yeah.
So you have to understand what those tolerances mean. And if you have a small slide, what the clearance is between a slide and a gib versus a larger slide that might be in, you know, running a hot material. So it's going to be hotter. So you can't use the same tolerances because that slide's going to increase. So the designers are going to take more of a key role when it comes to making sure that at the end of the day, the mold builder / program manager can assemble all the parts that he's got, and that the mold's going to work right.
Yep.
So that's really kind of how I see it. And then the individual departments are going to be, you know, following the programming along. So the programmers are going to have to understand all different kinds of cutter path strategies, and they got to work to the tolerances that are called out.
Yeah, I do agree that it's going to be very heavy mold design and engineering is where a lot of the innovation and future, and which falls right in line with what the next generation probably likes. If you think about what's happened in our own culture and the type of work they want, I mean, in technology, everything's moving in the direction where it's more Industry 4.0, simulation, software, computers, AI. Think of all that stuff, robotics. Stuff they don't really so much have to touch, you know, that trade, that craft that we all love so much, and you need, you know, the tribal knowledge. It's going to transform, and it's going to be design engineering. So I agree with that. All right. So the purpose of this was to give our readers a little snapshot to one of our new editorial advisory board members who I will be relying on throughout the next few years, just to help with the content in the magazine. As I've said before, the board really serves as my boots on the ground. And with all of your experience, you're just good people to lean on to see what should be covered and what's hot out there and what are challenges. So that was a really nice snapshot of who Mike is. So now, last but not least, I want to talk about you outside of work. And I know that you're into glass blowing and collecting antique marbles and making jewelry. So you have to talk about that. I love hearing the hobbies of people outside of work.
So before I started mold making, when I was a kid, I had a jewelry making class in high school, and I sold one of the pieces I made, and I made money at it. And I thought, ooh, I can do this. So I was a jeweler for a while before I got into the mold shop. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was fun. And I still, you know, retain some of those skills. And then I started collecting antique marbles back around 1999, and that led me to collect art glass marbles. And
I'm seeing the path here.
Yep. And then we in our shop, we were building a mold for a bezel for a jetted tub. And it's that donut that the water squirts out of.
Yeah.
And I looked at that big graphite electrode that we had there, and I thought that would make a good marble mold, because I was just seeing this spherical shape, these radius rims. And so I made one, I designed one, and I took it to a glassblower friend of mine and asked him if I had an idea. And he said, yeah, try it. He tried it. I had never done it before, and he said he'd walk me through the process. So I made my first marble on this geometry that I kind of came up with. And so I now have moved that, and I sell that as a tool to the glass industry.
Get out.
And I make marbles and little pendants and things like that. So it's a lot of fun.
I love that. See that? Marbles and molds. Who would think that?
Yeah, exactly. It's called a marble mold, but it's more of a form. You put the glass in there and you spin it around.
Well, where did the fascination with marbles come from?
I have always liked spheres for some
Hmm.
reason,
Okay.
and I liked stones. So I actually was looking at stone spheres. You know, you can
Huh.
see them all over the place.
Okay. Yep.
And then one day at church, my pastor, he was a new guy. He was giving his interview sermon.
Okay.
Says, if you come into my office, you'll see a lot of marbles in there. He says, I probably have 50,000 marbles in my office. And I'm like, marbles? Who you know? Well, so back then eBay was kind of new, and I was looking up something on eBay, and there was a little thing that said marbles. And I remembered this guy's sermon. I went to look at these marbles, and I was floored by the different names, because I thought they were all
Hmm.
going to be clear marbles or
Yeah.
cat's eye marbles, the stuff that you
Yep.
normally see, right? And no, there were names like corkscrews and Popeyes, and there were prices like $80 and
Oh,
$50, and
wow.
who is going to pay $80 for a marble? That's no way. That's 5 cents, right? At the most. And so I just got sucked into it, and I needed to learn more about it.
Wow.
And yeah, I got sucked into it. It was pretty cool.
You lost your marbles over
I
marbles.
Yeah, but now I have plenty.
That's great.
And
That's
if I
great.
lose those, I can make more.
There you go. There you go. All right, Mike. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for spending this time for me to get to know you a little bit and for share you with our viewership. And to everyone out there watching, remember, for everything mold making, visit moldmakingtechnology.com. Stay informed and stay inspired.